Boys and girls, today we're going to be talking about strategies for dividing with decimals. Now, this strategy is going to work whether your dividend is a whole number, like we have here, 43, or it also works if your dividend is a decimal itself, if you're dividing a decimal by a decimal. So what we're going to do is we're going to anchor our learning today by looking at a real world problem you might encounter if you were doing division with decimals problem. We're also going to connect back to some of the things that we have already learned about fractions, and that's going to lead us into understanding a strategy that we can use when we are dividing decimals, because remember, decimals and fractions are connected. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Here is a real world problem that involves division with decimals. So this is something that you might encounter if you were working on a project or in your everyday life. So pause the video here. You can read through it on your own. And then after the video, go back and try the strategies that we talked about in the video and see if you can solve it for yourself. All right, so let's make some connections to some of the things that we've already learned about. These are also things that are going to help us to be able to understand a strategy for how to divide decimals. So the first thing that we need to remember is that a fraction, division problems are fractions, and vice versa, fractions are division problems. So in other words, if I have a fraction 1 over 2, that's basically the same thing as our top number over our bottom number, or I can write this actually as a division problem where my top number is going inside of our long division bar and our bottom number is going on the outside, so 1 being divided by 2. Likewise, if someone were to give you a 1 being divided by 2, you could set this up as a fraction. In other words, you could say 1 over 2. This always works. You can always turn a division problem into a fraction and a fraction into a division problem. Another thing that's very important is that fractions are connected to decimals. Fractions are decimals, and decimals are fractions. For instance, 3/10 can also be written as a decimal, as in 0.3, or also another way to say this is 3/10. In this case, 4.83 or 483 can also be written as 483 over 100. So just remember there's a connection between decimals and fractions. The other thing that you need to remember is that when we're dividing with fractions, our quotient will get larger. So for example, 32 divided by 1/2 is going to give us a larger number, 64, as our quotient. And the reason that leads on to our fourth connection, which is to divide with fractions, we must flip and multiply. So basically, if I'm taking 25 wholes and dividing it by half, we need to go ahead and flip that around to make 25 times 2 once, or times 2. So 25 times 2 is 50. So you'll notice how 25, when we were dividing by half, turned into 50. Our quotient got larger. All right, so now that we've kind of made some connections here, I've gone ahead and I've written out a problem, and it is a simple problem, but we're going to use some patterns here, and we're going to make some connections to see if we can notice a strategy that's going to help us out when we're dividing with decimals. All right, so we're starting out here, and we've divided 25 by 5. I've gone ahead and I've written this as a fraction problem. So 25 divided by 5, I've changed 5 into a fraction. You can just do that by saying 5 over 1. So 25 divided by 5 becomes 25 divided by 5 over 1. Here on step 3, I turn this into a flip and multiply situation. 25 times 1/5. Notice how I've just flipped my 5 once into 1/5. This becomes 25 out of 5, or 25/5. Connecting this back to a long division strategy, you'll notice that our numerator, the number on top, just like we were talking about connecting with long division, is the number inside of our house. And the denominator is the number that's going to be outside the house, our divisor. Okay? And our quotient when you divide 25 by 5 is 5. All expected. Now let's take a look at a division with a decimal problem. Here you'll notice we've got 25 being divided by 0.5, or 5/10. When we turn this into a fraction, we get 25 divided by 5/10. Just as I said, 5/10, 25 divided by 5/10. Again, we're going to use the flip and multiply strategy. Now we have 25 times 10/5. We've just found the reciprocal of our 5/10. When we go ahead and multiply our tops, 25 times 10 becomes 250. Our denominator does not change. It is still fifths. Let's go ahead and take a look at what our long division will look like. Here you can see that compared to our first dividend, which was 25, our new dividend has transformed. It has jumped over one place value, and it has now become 250. Likewise, going back to our divisor, which was 0.5, here in our new problem, it has become 5. Okay. Now, what I want to call your attention to is how we made this connection with our fractions problem. Notice how when we flipped and multiplied, our top number became the same as our number inside the house. And notice how our divisor, which was 0.5, has become the same as our bottom number, 5. And also, take a look how we've jumped over one space. Our dividend has jumped over one space from 25 to 250. Our divisor has jumped over one space from 0.5 to 5. Likewise, when we divide 250 by 5, our quotient becomes, again, 10 times larger. So let's take a look and see if we can notice the pattern continuing. This time, our new problem becomes 25 divided by 0.05, or 5/100. We've represented that as a fractions problem here. And again, we're flipping and multiplying, which is 100 over 5. We multiply our tops to get 2,500 over 5. Before I reveal this, boys and girls, pause the video and see if you can predict how many jumps, or how our dividend will change, how our divisor will change, and altogether how many jumps we will be making. Yes, we made 2 jumps. Our dividend is exactly the same as our numerator on our fractions problem. Likewise, our divisor has jumped over 2 spaces. It has gone from 0.05, or 5/100, to a whole number 5. So notice how it was very nice for us to change this number into a whole number. And likewise, we made 2 jumps on our dividend. When we divide 2,500 by 5, our answer likewise is 100 times greater. Okay? So, boys and girls, I don't know if you caught that, but the strategy for dividing with decimals is to simply turn your divisor into a whole number. In other words, how many jumps will it take to create this number as a whole number? In 0.5's case, it took 1 jump. In 0.05's case, it took 2 jumps. All right, boys and girls, we are coming towards the end of our video. Here is a practice problem that you could do. Just remember, the strategy is we are going to make 1 jump on our divisor to turn this into a whole number. And likewise, we'll do 1 jump to make this, to match our divisor. Okay? Try this on your own and see what you can get.